Out Against Mental Illness.
Right, welcome back everybody. I'm here with a couple of people today for another one of my talking therapy sessions. I'm here with Tom and Lesley, who I'm going to let introduce themselves, but I know Tom and Lesley via the Crew group that I'm part of here in Auchterarder, a wider arts programme that centres around a local building, the Auchterarder Picture House. There's lots more about that if you go back in my podcast history, particularly if you go and listen to the episode before last, which was an interview with Peter Lyson, who's really the figurehead and the founder of this group. Tom and Lesley run several parts of this group and form a very big part of the backbone of the organisation. And I want to really bring this back to where I started with Peter, which is talking about the value of arts in the community and in the broadest sense, and the value that can bring to the community and also to the individuals who are a part of it. So I'm not going to say too much more about that. We'll get into the details of this as we go along, but I'm going to hand over for a quick introduction from the two of them. I'll start with you, Tom. Go.
My name's Tom Langlands. I'm a retired architect, retired 12, 13 years ago, originally from Dundee. I've always been interested in the theatre, drama, writing, poetry, and I guess that's why I ended up at Auchterarder Picture House, having retired to this lovely Perthshire town three plus years ago. Absolutely loving it here, and I find the Picture House a wonderful place for the creative arts. There's so much buzz about the place and so much I'd like to think that I can bring to it. And in meeting Lesley, who's going to talk to you today as well, I think we've developed a very exciting drama and writing side to this town.
Brilliant, thank you. And over to you, Lesley.
I'm Lesley Buchan Donald. I was a veterinary surgeon in my former existence. I had to retire in 2016 due to the development of Parkinson's disease, which was not compatible with me continuing as a vet. But that opened the door for me to do some things that I hadn't been able to do before. My job had really prevented me taking much on in the way of creative hobbies. So I had always been a singer, but there was no chance for anything in the way of writing or acting. And when I took retirement, I explored that area of my life and found it to be very fulfilling, and suddenly found that I could write. And then at the creative writing classes by the adult education, I met Tom, and from there the writing just increased, and we're now running drama and words and open mic nights.
Yeah, we're going to drill into all of that. So that you met via the creative writing workshops for the local adult education. Were you running that, Tom?
I wasn't when I came here at first. I actually came to town and thought, right, what's there in this town that I can get myself immersed in? So I went along to the creative writing class that was being run by somebody else at that time. They decided after a year that they weren't able to continue for their own personal reasons, and the class asked me at that stage if I would take over and lead the class, which I did. Wow. And that's where it went from there.
And so you've got plenty of experience with writing before?
I've been writing in some form or another all my life. It goes back probably to when I won the senior poetry competition writing at school that was assessed by a professor at the university in Dundee, and he wrote some very nice things about the poem that I submitted. And I guess that's how you get hooked into these things. It just takes somebody to say something nice to encourage you, for you to win something, and away you go. You realise that you've opened up a door to a lifetime of creativity in one way or another.
Hell yeah, and that's why we do this, and maybe we'll get some time to talk about the work with the schools. That's really interesting to hear, actually. Funny because Dundee's better known for its comics than its writing, is it not? With is it DC Thompson?
It is. It's DC Thompson, and of course the Beano and the Dandy and all the characters in there. So I suppose I grew up with that. My gran always bought me the Hotspur magazine every single week. I think that was a DC Thompson's publication, but she gave me the money and sent me down to the corner shop every week to get the Hotspur. And I remember that was an interesting reading thing. For me at secondary school, the whole creative writing thing took off with an incredibly good English teacher who was sufficiently young to understand and appreciate what was then the contemporary writings of people like Bob Dylan, Paul Simon, Leonard Cohen, and not just all the Shakespeare stuff, which we were doing as well. But he opened my eyes to creativity in literature, and that stuck with me right through my life.
Amazing. Yeah, so cool. And Lesley, you're a vet. I did not know this, that you were a vet. Is that, I mean, we're in the middle of the country here. Were you one of those vets with your hand up at horses,
Not horses so much. No, first 12 and a bit years, large animal practice in Cumbria.
What does that mean, large?
So big animals, so
Like
cattle and sheep
yeah,
it was mainly.
Not people's household, dogs and cats.
No, I did a little bit of that, but it was mostly cattle and sheep. And then I moved to Yorkshire into small animal practice. And very latterly I was developing a special qualifications and interest in animal dermatology. So it was a complete change for me when I gave up work and suddenly found I had time to explore other things that obviously were sitting in me, waiting to escape.
So you didn't really do much in the way of sort of arts and creativity before that. It was all just down to, well, I guess, science, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And because I was on call a lot of nights, you couldn't really get involved in these sort of things.
And did you see the creativity, is that directly linked to the Parkinson's diagnosis in the sense that you feel that, creative activities will be particularly effective in helping you manage those symptoms? Or was it just, I need something else to occupy my mind?
No, I'm not somebody that sits around. I keep busy. I've got lots of things I'm interested in. And obviously I'm a creative person. That had never had an outlet before. At school, some of my teachers certainly felt I should go into writing rather than veterinary medicine. And I did have a place at the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama that I could have gone to instead of vet school, but vet school was the place I went, and that shaped the next few years.
Yeah, well, I can imagine there's plenty of animals and farmers and pet owners that were glad you went into veterinary practice. Not something I know a lot about, but there was at least one other member of the wider crew group who is still a vet. You know James, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, his interest is he would rather be making films and filming stuff with his amazing set of digital movie making equipment, but he has to spend his days with horses and things. So we have all sorts, but there's a lot of vets around this part of the world, as you can imagine. Okay, so you guys met. I meet lots of people, right? I don't tend to end up writing stage plays with them. How on earth does that happen?
That's a good question.
I'm not really sure.
I mean, over what period did that happen?
Well, I think the writing class kicked off when I was running it, and we started to explore different forms of writing, from prose to poetry to short stories to little radio sketches. And then within that group, we discovered that there were shared interests. There were 2 or 3 of us that really enjoyed script writing. There were 4 or 5 of us that very much enjoyed poetry, and we expanded on that a lot. And that's how we ended up agreeing that out of that creative writing group in Auchterarder, we created a drama group, both writing it, and then we found various people in the community. We tapped into resources that were there, people who could act. people who had a whole range of other skills that are necessary to make theatre work. And also from that, the whole poetry side took off. We went to a number of open mic events elsewhere and thought, why is this not happening in Auchterarder? Why does Auchterarder not have its own open mic nights? And we thought, let's do it.
That's pretty much it, yes.
So I think we've jumped some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So my history, I was one of the early members of Crew with Peter, and we had a very sort of strong focus on the sort of visual arts, painting, things that hang on walls, right? Just because it was me, it turned up, right? And you guys weren't far behind, but I think you'd already done a pantomime by that point, right?
Yes. That was me. 2021, something like that. I decided one summer that I thought I could write a pantomime.
Okay, as you do.
As you do.
In the middle of summer.
Yeah. And over a couple of nights when I wasn't sleeping very well, which is not uncommon, I wrote a pantomime, and I got together a few friends and we got permission to put it on in one of the local churches, and it was well received, except they said, oh, you will be doing it again next year. So I had to write another one for next year, and by the time I was doing the third one, that's when I think Tom had moved to Auchterarder, got involved in the band. The band that was supporting the pantomime, so we had live music by then.
Yeah, I was playing the guitar in your band for your pantomime at that stage. There were 4 or 5 musicians that got together.
And then we knew each other through that and through the creative writing class, and it just sort of went on from there.
So if we're talking about the idea of community and bringing people together, I mean, it sounds like that was what was happening. How many people were involved at that point, do you think?
Well, I was pretty much doing everything that wasn't acting. So I was building all the set and props and everything, and writing. And then, as I say, gathering together people. I think that's probably one of our skills, is persuading people to get on board and join us and explore other things that maybe are a wee bit out their comfort zone.
We co-wrote a murder mystery night together.
That was the first thing.
That was the first joint effort that we put on. And we decided to broaden the net at that stage and think, okay, who else can we tap into who can act? And strangely enough, there were a number of people that we now have on in the drama group who were not acting at that time, but actually proved to be very, very good at it. And we got them, we built teams at that stage. I think it was the first time that had really started to happen. Let's look at set building and makeup and costume. And again, the band. And we put on a murder mystery night to test the water, as it were, in the town and see how well supported it was. It was an absolute sellout, and people were coming out asking us when the next one was. It was very successful, and that's when we decided we actually need a drama group in this town, a properly formed drama group with a whole...
That's amazing. I'm just sort of amazed by the breadth of different types of activity and all the people that must have been involved. And like Auchterarder, I mean, what 5,000 or 6,000 people. Yeah. We're not in a big city. The way you've managed to find so many people who would participate in something like that, who maybe thought they wouldn't have done so before, that there was no real arts or performance or drama scene here that you've managed to sort of conjure one up out of nowhere.
I think we have quite a number of people now some of whom have had their own challenges in life in various mental health ways, who have found the creative writing process, the poetry and the drama as a good outlet for making them feel comfortable. And we're also a very friendly group of people. I think for us it was the move to the Picture House, or the decision to create the drama group within the Picture House crew and be part of that creative hub, that opened many other doors You mentioned James before, the videographer. When we came here at first, Peter, who runs the Picture House, we said, we could bring you a drama group. And he jumped at the idea and said, wonderful, but if you're going to put things on, please let's make sure they are the best we can possibly do, and not so much very am-dram, but let's aim high. And we did that, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And that's been our aim ever since, really, to do that. Everything that we can do as professionally as we can do, even though we're amateurs, most of us.
Well, let's put that into a bit of context. And I was trying not to have us jump around and do this a bit more linear. We're not going to do that, are we? So let's just jump around a bit. So last year it was October, right? You put on a show next door in the Picture House, which, for those who haven't listened, is a derelict 1920s cinema that I live next door to. And you put on it was called Spectres of Cinema.
It was.
And it was I'm going to let you explain this, but it was what I would call an immersive theatre event in that space, which, when I was going to go into it, when I heard about it, I thought, well, this should be interesting, if nothing else. I don't know what I had in my head, but when I experienced what was actually delivered, I would not have believed that was even possible. So it was really, really very impressive, and sort of was a culmination of, I think, this program to that day. But I'll let you explain it and what went into that, who was involved, how many people, and Jesus, the whole setup was mad.
Yeah. I think it started on the very first meeting we had in this building with Peter. We were talking about coming along and bringing the drama group and perhaps making this our home. And he said, I've always wanted us to be able to have something on in the old Picture House in the state it's in just now. Some sort of drama, spectacular drama event. And we blithely said, oh yes, we can do that.
He suggested a ghost story, didn't he?
Yes.
He said it would lend itself to a ghost story.
Yeah, and we just said, oh yes, we can do that. And then after we'd gone, we sat and thought about it and thought, where are we even going to start? We've got no idea what he's wanting. But within a couple of weeks, we had the basic story, the basic idea of characters that could have been associated with the Picture House, and historically, and how their lives had developed and what had happened to them, and it just grew from there.
Yeah, and we got James, the videographer, involved and said, okay, what happens if we filmed characters from the past to fictional characters that might have been, as Lesley says, in the cinema, and let's project them up on the walls of the Picture House as they would have been, telling their story of what they did there and what their role was, but also the things that were going on in their personal lives at the time that were troubling them before they eventually died. And then as these pictures were projected up on the screens and these actors were talking to us from the past, we brought them out as ghosts, completely in white, into the middle of the auditorium, which was standing room only. There were no seats. It was a 45-minute, 1-hour production. And we got the ghosts to walk in amongst the audience, talking about what had happened to them since they'd died, or what had troubled them in their lives. So you got the duality of living people from the past versus ghosts from the present.
Yeah.
I think it worked well.
I mean, it was spectacular. And so just to give the listeners a bit of an idea of that the main auditorium of the Picture House, I mean, it's big, right? Very, very, very high ceilings with a balcony. Probably bigger than most of the cinema screens you would go in now by quite a way. And we were stood in the centre of it as the audience, and every wall apart from the one, well, actually, no, every wall, I think, had something projected on it, which was sometimes, people, actors that they previously filmed, but, there was a bit where the cinema was on fire, so we were immersed in fire. There was lights everywhere.
You were in World War One at one stage.
Well, God, that was
trenches.
mad. And we had the soldiers all around us, and the sound was coming from every direction as well. Then actors on the balcony, and so you were encouraged to sort of turn around. And then there was actors in amongst us, saying their pieces, walking around as unhappy ghosts. There was moments of comedy, moments of sort of pathos, and very sad moments, and all of this squished into under an hour, and a fairly big cast and massive supporting.
We wanted to capture human emotions, so all of them. So we deliberately went out of our way to show these ghosts sometimes as happy people. So we had the cleaner upstairs in the balcony and the cleaner downstairs chatting to one another up through the space. And then we had tragedy. One of the usherettes had lost a young child. We had the money man of the cinema who had embezzled money and ended up hanging himself. But we also, one of the things we did enjoy doing, and we still do to this day, when we talk about community, we want to engage the widest possible community in this town. So you, Lesley, went to talk to the local dancing group and got them involved.
Kirsten brought along some of her young pupils, and they were absolutely fantastic. They were really good. They rehearsed away separately from us, so we only saw them late on as we were practising, and they were really very, very good. You'll remember they came out from behind a black screen, all dressed in black with skeletons on that under fluorescent light.
They were like, what, how old were they? Like
12, something like that. Yeah. So just youngsters, but really, really good, and it was very effective. And then their teacher, Kirsten, came out as Charlie Chaplin as well at the end. So it was another way of reaching another group that perhaps we wouldn't have been able to involve otherwise. If we can get schools involved, if we can get the dancers involved, choirs involved, if we can bring them in, even in part, into our productions, it's what we want to do. It's a lot of what drives us on, I think.
The reason we used Kirsty as Charlie Chaplin in that production is we're always keen to root our drama at the moment in something that's relevant to this town. And Charlie Chaplin's In the Gold Rush was the first film that was ever shown in Auchterarder Picture House. So the story revolved around the owner and the architect that had designed the cinema opening the evening back in time, 1926 it was, with a production of In the Gold Rush by Charlie Chaplin, and the whole evening of ghosts and skeletons and Charlie Chaplin and kids being lost and emerging from the pits was all rooted in that history of the cinema. And that's important to us when we write things as we're doing just now. We've just finished writing a new production for the Picture House. And again, it's rooted in the history of the town.
Yeah, amazing. It was quite something. And so you had, as we said, some school-age kids, spotted some teenagers. I don't know the girl's name who was singing. She was amazing. Right through till, you guys are retirees, but there was many other retirees involved. I don't really feel like I saw a skew in the sort of age groups or anything like that. It felt like it was quite representative.
I think we covered all the age groups. We were there from very young right through to very elderly. But also, it's not just about the acting, which is obviously key to how an evening like that unfolds, but the production team, in the widest sense that lay behind that Spectres, was big, very big. There were costume, makeup, sound effects, tech, lighting, resources from film libraries. There was all sorts of stuff went into that production to make it what it was. So you saw 45-minute to 1 hour, and it would be the same with any theatre. You see a 1 hour production that has taken months of planning behind the scenes to make it happen. We're busy planning one for Christmas, which is now in the audition stage for the actors, and it's already been 3-4 months in. Well, actually, the concept goes way back a year at least. The development of the script to where it is now, and our outlining of all the tech and special effects and roles that we need to make it happen has been happening over the last 3 months. We're now at the stage of let's make it happen.
I'm almost frightened, given how much I saw went into that last one. I did my little bit. I put some of my paintings up on the wall. I think that's about as much effort other than turning up and watching it and being supportive. So at least I've got a little bit of advertising out there. So I can't wait. And so, Lesley, you acted in it, which was quite amazing. You directed it, Tom, I believe, right? You were sitting in the corner.
I've been involved with theatre most of my life in one way or another. So I have directed things in the past and written things in the past. I was a member of Lockerbie Drama Group for many years. And in Annan, my hometown, well, not my hometown, but the previous town where I lived for 30 odd years. I'm originally from Dundee, but spent 30 odd years in Annan. I wrote a couple of very big community pantomimes, and they were aimed at pulling the whole community together. We had 70 or 80 people involved in each of these productions. The cast was probably only 8, 9, but behind the scenes there was another 60 people involved in making it happen. And that's what I'd like to bring here. I want to see us engage with the wider community. So as I was talking earlier about schools, you mentioned schools. We're very keen to get as many people involved in it as possible if they can work with us in a way to make things happen that everybody is happy with at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there is a cliche about theatre directors in that they are loud, quite angry prima donnas. Do you feel that you fit into that archetype, or are you more of a Spielberg?
Maybe you need to ask Lesley that question.
Lesley.
I couldn't possibly comment.
Well, funny, I as much as I experienced you directing it, you sat in the corner quietly with a headset on, sort of, directing from behind the scenes, as it were, and I didn't experience any of the...
I think that was after it had gone into production phase where we didn't really have a stage manager, so I ended up having to stage manage it from the corner. All the directing took place in the rehearsals long before that.
Jeez, the amount of tech that they squeezed into that place. It was quite impressive. And so, yes, I can't wait to see what happens next. And what one assumes it's one of many. And at some point they're going to redevelop the site. But I think you like my bits of the crew, you're going to keep using it, keep milking it while it's there, and then hopefully use it when it's been regenerated, right?
Well, you mentioned tech there. I mean, the tech that went into Spectres of the Cinema was massive.
Yeah.
We did suggest at one stage that projection might be a good idea, thinking in the back of my mind at 1 or 2 projectors. And the next thing is we've got at least 12 projectors running simultaneously all over the cinema walls. And then we spoke about sound effects. And the next thing is we've got a full surround sound system, actors all mic'd up. Lighting was absolutely superb. There was literally thousands and thousands of pounds worth of tech went into Spectres of the Cinema.
You're almost afraid to suggest things to Peter sometimes because... he'll just go and do it.
Yeah,
right? And that's what happened with me. Well, I mean, and also we don't do it by halves. So that happened with the whole exhibition thing. It's not quite on the same scale, but I was going to stick a few boards up and hope for the best. And we have those display boards that you see everywhere now that look ultra professional, wired lighting, and it's really quite something. So I think Peter's energy and resources certainly. I don't think. It sounds to me like this would have happened anyway. You probably wouldn't have had the scale and the technology quite in the same way. But I think that this isn't all about Peter and the Picture House. This is about people working together in the community to deliver something that matters. And we've got this amazing vehicle to help us do it.
It's this community focus that does it, and we're all community-focused people that are now involved, from the book hub to the photography to the art to theatre, to spoken word. Everything we do is for the community and should involve the community. I think that's very important. It's certainly important to me, and I know it's important to Lesley.
Yeah, and I think it's the relationships that you build with people and they build among each other. I think I find it very rewarding to know that, you know, something I've been involved in has brought people together. There's friendships that exist and bonds that exist and ideas that have been exchanged because of, you know, something I was involved in putting on or something wider part of the group did. And I think it's made a difference to the social fabric of Auchterarder quite dramatically in a very, very short time.
I think it's these individual crew groups that we've now got. The crew groups, crew photography, crew music, crew drama, whatever it is. We now all sit down together, about once a month, and we tell each other what our current plans are. And inevitably somebody goes, oh, I can help you with that, or I can do a sign on a wall for you, as you've just suggested for Stands Alone, Alex. And we bounce ideas off each other, and the next thing you've got things like the Creative Youth Day, or Youth Creative Day, that involved 100 kids from the local school coming up here.
Yeah, how terrifying was that?
It was wonderful, absolutely fantastic day. But we now actually talk about the whole being greater than the sum of the parts. It absolutely is. No.
Yeah, I really think it is. It's quite a pleasure. So we talked a lot about the theatre side of things, but obviously you've got crew words. Do you want to just tell me what that's about?
Well, that grew out of the adult education course that Tom eventually ended up running. Most of us said it when we were asked, we're prose writers, but he's a poet, and somehow he managed to convert quite a few of us to writing poetry. And from that we went out to, poetry has to be performed. It's not something to read, you have to hear it. So we decided to go along to a few open mic nights, and that made us think, well, why don't we have one in Auchterarder? And that's where the open mic night came from. And it's really, it's been very good for bringing different people together. People that maybe wouldn't normally have considered going to anything with creative arts or poetry particularly. I mean, it's too ethereal. They've come along to the open mic nights, and we've had quite a range. And I mean, our last open mic night, we had. We just heard that one of the people that performs at our open mic nights was World Slam champion. So
yeah,
I mean,
Chris Smith. He won the Scottish Slam Poetry Championship last year, and while we were having our open mic night here last month, he was actually the very same night performing in Paris in the World Championships, which he won. Yeah. And he's coming
Scotland
back to headline for us. Yeah. But no, you're absolutely right. And then what's happened on the back of that is we're now in a very fortunate position. We started looking for headline acts for each of our open mic nights. And the next thing was we had them queuing up. We had people contacting us saying, could I please headline at your act? Now, these are big names across the whole poetry and writing scene of Scotland. We're attracting readers and writers and poets now from Glasgow to Edinburgh to Dundee, and a way out into other areas of Perthshire, Cross Fife, Lothian. They all come now to Stands Alone. So it's the last Wednesday in every month. Yeah. And we have a headline act, and we run for 2 hours, and anybody's welcome to come along and read. But you're also welcome to just come along and listen. People come along, have a drink, have a cup of tea, pull up a chair. And I think people have a misconception as to what poetry is. And I think that's what happened in the writing class when I said, right, we're going to look at poetry. Everybody goes, oh, no, here we go, you know. Yeah, let's see where it goes. And then all of a sudden you realise that it's vital, it's exciting, it's moving, it's full of energy, full of emotion.
Raw.
Well, it's kind of whatever you want it to be, which I think was a real learning for me, not being much on poetry, although it does come tumbling out of me from time to time. But going to that, the Stands Alone, you know, firstly, the amount of people that turned up was just like, how is this happening? And then I was sitting there going, well, is anyone really getting up? It's all the same people that are just coming round and doing the rounds that have always done this and do it all the time. And of course, they were there. But more and more people I saw that were standing out were just part of the local community. I've seen them around the local groups, have been in your writing groups, and then other people that had come in from further afield clearly weren't intending to do any readings, just got up, found something on their phone and did a reading. Which inspired me to do it as well. And I got up and read some of my bits and pieces. It was something I absolutely did not ever think I would do. I don't mind an audience, but poetry, really? But I actually thought it was amazing. And I was really inspired by that. And I love the idea that you can just turn up and anyone... And it's really the ethos of the whole crew, is you come along and you're part of the group, and it doesn't matter what your... experience level is. If you've got something to say, come say it, and you'll be able to say it alongside someone who's really experienced, maybe a published author or a professional artist or whatever, a world champion, right?
I remember the night you read well and you got a great response from the audience, and that must have encouraged you, and that's what it does to everybody. They stand up, they read, even if they're completely new on the poetry scene, they give it a go. And they're amazed by the response. And that's the encouragement that you want people to have. And the next thing is they're away writing more and asking if they can come back and do it again, please.
I think they're a very comfortable, safe place to start reading. You don't feel that anybody's judgmental. You feel supported and encouraged to stand up and perform your poetry. I think that's one of the things that we're good at.
We make it very clear, no heckling,
yes.
no chatting, no discussions about the poems that are read. Just sit back, listen, enjoy, and take out of them what you want.
You might not agree with what the person's saying. They might have opinions or ideas or something they want to say that you're not happy with, but you've got to let everything in to find the good stuff.
And for some people, it's therapy. And I think that's vitally important to say that, because some people have come along to our poetry nights and we're amazed at how they open up about things in their lives that have troubled them, from relationships to lost children to all sorts of things. And we have people who have reduced themselves to tears reading their poetry, but have actually found immense comfort from the reaction they get from the audience, both at the time, but when we have a coffee break in the middle or at the end of the evening, the support they get from people gathering around them to say, that was really important that you said that.
I couldn't agree more. One of my earlier episodes, I was talking about Emily Dickinson and how basically she published a few pieces and then largely kept it to herself, and her work was only discovered after she died. And that's cool, right? If you want to make pictures or write poetry or do whatever it is you want to do and keep it for yourself, absolutely do that, right? You have that right, and maybe that's perfect for you. But if you can get out there and share it, if you can cross that line and become someone who is able and feels empowered to do that, the extra benefits on top of the benefit you're already getting are incalculable. And I think that, a lot of what the crew does and particularly Stands Alone is gives people that sort of confidence and also the platform to do it. Because otherwise, how do you know where to start? Even if you want to share stuff, where do I go? You know what I mean?
Yeah. You don't know where you sit alongside your peers in terms of the quality of your work. But it's not just about the quality, although that is important. It's about how it helps you. You and I were talking the other day, Lesley, about maybe we should introduce at the creative writing class the idea of these diaries where you enter something every single day that's important to you about your emotions, whether you've been happy that day, what you've done that day, how it made you feel, how it coloured your view of the world on that particular day. And we should encourage people perhaps at our writing group to come along. We might make that a session actually, come along to the next writing class with a journal of the last 7 days. Just a short entry in a creative format of what every day has meant to you.
You can tack on a session of primal scream therapy at the end.
Yeah.
I certainly do write some stuff about Parkinson's. I've written quite a few things now, partly for therapy for myself, for exploring it, but also in the thought that maybe it lets other folk, because Parkinson's such a varying disease, it maybe let other folk see that they're not alone in having these symptoms or these feelings. Or I'm hopeful that maybe it gives some comfort to some people.
And also that it doesn't, and mental health and other sort of chronic ailments, whatever they may be, they don't have to be the end of everything that you love. They don't have to stop you completely, and that you almost, as you did, had to massively change your mode of existence, but you found something else, something beautiful elsewhere, and that in itself is treatment. That itself is therapy, and it's going to help you to develop, but also to sort of treat your symptoms. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I consider Parkinson's a silver lining, really.
Wow.
I wouldn't have asked for it, but it's hugely given me another life that I would still be working, all the hours God sends and doing nothing else, really.
I just think that's amazing to hear. And I'm always a little bit, being autistic, I don't sometimes read the room as well as I should. So I'm always a little bit hesitant to sort of raise things like this and drill down too hard, because if I don't read the response well, I who am I going to offend? But that's such an amazingly positive message to hear. I'm really pleased we've got it down here so other people can hear it. So thank you for that. The other thing I wanted to pick up with you, Lesley, is that we're talking about language here and writing, but you don't always just write in English.
No. I've been encouraged by the creative writing tutor, Tom. Sometimes poems want to come out in Scots. I don't speak Scots, as you can hear. I've got a Scottish accent and a smattering of Scottish words, but I'm speaking English most of the time, partly because it wasn't encouraged to speak the mother tongue. When I was at school, it was considered that you had to speak English to get on. So although I had a father who was a native Doric speaker, and my mum was Glaswegian, a very proud Glaswegian, I had the luxury of growing up in Perthshire and all that background to language floating about round me. But I was still speaking English most of the time. But now, when I'm writing, quite a lot of poems just want to come out in Scots.
Yeah, Scots is such being, English, it's so lovely to hear. It's got such a lyrical, poetic, just like the Scottish accent in general is just, there's a reason that Burns is so famous, right? It sounds good, like Irish, right?
I consider my Scots a mongrel tongue because it's a mixture of Doric words and Perthshire.
I don't even know what Doric is, sorry.
From the northeast of Scotland, the particular local accent that they have there, or dialect that they have there. But everybody has their own. I use words sometimes that Tom won't know. Tom will use words that I don't know because they'll be Dundonian words.
I don't profess to know the Scots language that well. I understand most of Lesley's poems. Every now and again there's a word or two where I have to say to her, I don't know what that means, and she'll explain it to me. I can't write in Scots language. I don't know it nearly well enough to be able to write in it, but I can understand it. All my own personal work is in English, but I think there's a fantastic market out there for people like Lesley with the Scots language. There are magazines and editors, and there seems to be a particular rise in a resurgence in the interest of Scots language at the moment that renders great outlets for people like Lesley. I
think that's amazing. But the funny thing is, though, you say there's, you slip the odd word in there that most people are not going to know, but it doesn't matter. How many other poets have? It's the same with some of the Irish poets as well. Yeah. That actually make up words, right? Or just stuff that fits or takes words that have a particular meaning and just use them in the wrong context to create, to paint a picture. And I think, as you say about poetry needs to be performed, and it makes so much more sense when it's said in the right way, at the right cadence, at the right time. That, do I know what that means? No, but I can probably guess, take a gist of it, and if I've got the right feel for the overall piece, then it doesn't matter. I've taken the spirit of it away, and there was enough of it in there that I could just make sense of it.
We had a lot of fun at the writing class in one particular session where we started to explore nonsense poetry.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I love
you
that.
think, you think of
Jabberwocky.
Lewis Carroll, people
Love
like
it.
that. You start to think of that, and you think, I don't know what every individual word means, but it doesn't matter. There's a rhythm and a cadence to it that allows you to understand what it's about. So we actually had some people come back. One woman I remember in particular created her own language utterly. So the words were entirely different. Was that you, Lesley?
Yes.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, who was it? It was Lesley. She wrote this entire piece in her own constructed language, and yet you understood it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Love it.
What was that piece?
Norsepick. It was about a betrothal,
Yeah.
wasn't it? It was just a conversation between two people, one asking for her hand in marriage. And it worked because the roots of the words were vaguely, they were vaguely understandable, but they were, embroidered in a bit. And I've worked on that language since then, so I've got.
I would love that. That'd be
It's
cool.
not quite Klingon, but
No, exactly. But yeah, that would be amazing. And just create your own language, and then suddenly it's adopted, and they'll be speaking it everywhere. There's an Icelandic band. You've almost certainly heard their music, called Sigur Rós. They did the music for, I think it was one of the Attenborough Sea ones. No, was it one of the big Attenborough documentaries? And they sing in a made up, somewhat Icelandic, but mostly made up language. And it's soundscapes, right? They create stories with sound, and in some ways the language doesn't matter. They just want voices in there. Of course, they could have just sung it in Icelandic, and everyone else would have gone, might as well have made it up. But they actually did make it up. And of course, we have Tolkien and his meanders into made-up languages, which is also.
That's another thing we're starting to explore is music in our writing group as well. We've got a few people who sing and a few people who play musical instruments, and we're now exploring songwriting in various ways.
Yes, I would love to see that. Do we actually officially have a crew music yet, or is it still nascent?
It's nascent.
about to hatch.
We think it's about to hatch. What we're actually looking at, and I don't think there's any secret about it at the moment, we have formed a subcommittee, again, that's emerged from the creative writing group. And this subcommittee or group is looking at the possibility of creating an annual music words festival in the town. Other towns have their jazz music, blues festivals over a weekend. There's the calendar one. Lockerbie used to have one. I think Dundee's got one. Various other places. Why does Auchterarder not have a music words event that's taking place for, say, a Friday to a Monday at some point in the year? And we use all the available venues in the town, the pubs, the hotels, and we bring artists to them. And on the back of that, there's the economic benefit for the town, not just for the venues concerned, but the B&Bs, the hotels, and let's make it happen. So Lesley and I are very much ideas people. We have wild imaginations. My family tell me most of the time that I'm off the scale somewhere in terms of imagination. I need to be controlled. They're probably right. But we need to make these things happen. This is a small town. I keep talking about this town in relative to Pitlochry. Pitlochry is a small town, and until somebody had the imagination of once creating a theatre in a tent in the middle of the town, that's where it all started. It has now grown into the Pitlochry Festival Theatre, which breaks out into Winter Words, the Enchanted Forest, loads of other events that all centre around Pitlochry Festival Theatre. That is the creative hub of that town. And look at the spin-off for the B&Bs. It's annual now, it's year-round. B&Bs, hotels, restaurants, pubs are all benefiting. That should be happening here, or it could happen here.
Yeah, well, all it takes is one person or a few, as it case may be here. So I'm really looking forward to that. And there's obviously lots of opportunities for all the other arts groups to benefit from that as well.
Yeah.
So I'm really pleased. I do play the guitar. I'm not... one thing I'm not allowed to do is take on new activities because I've got too many as it is. So have we covered the things that you're actually doing, or if I missed something here?
We've covered most of the
Culture
things.
Trail.
Oh,
good
yes,
God.
that's another one. Yeah, I've forgotten about that.
Yeah.
The Auchterarder Culture Trail.
Yes, that's another one of the ideas that's, well, we started developing that. It was an idea that perhaps instead of the QR codes that you commonly see on historic buildings or where there's been historical events, giving you just purely a bit of text telling you the history of whatever happened or the person, that with our background in drama, we could have an actor dressed appropriately. We've got a very good wardrobe team telling you the story. It's so much more interesting than just reading a bit of script. It's so much more engaging. So we have been to the History Society and asked them for some hints about events and people associated with Auchterarder, and we've gone through that list and narrowed them down.
We now have a list of places in the town that we want to contact very soon to discuss whether they'd be willing to permit a QR code to be put onto their building. And that QR code will, as Lesley says, will have the videographer that we've worked with before pre-record our actors. And again, we will write the script for those actors to perform, film, link it to the QR code, and link it back to a host platform that I think you're involved with, Alex. And the benefit of that is not only can we say, for example, of a Roman soldier standing at a point in the town talking about what it was like when he invaded here X thousand years ago, but at any time in the future we can switch where these QR codes take us to, so we can change characters. So for instance, we could change characters for Easter or Hogmanay or Halloween, so that when you go to the QR code, you're presented with something different every time. So that I think has a lot of exciting possibilities, and that's something that we've already got the first QR code sample made up, the aluminium plate with the code on it, and the very first one we do will probably be the picture house itself, just so that we can demo to other people what we mean by the project.
I really like the concept of, I mean, we can all get together and be creative. It's cool, right? But grounding it in local history, it just feels, it's a bit obvious actually in some ways. You know, of course we're going to do that. Auchterarder has a rich history. We are the Langtoon. And a lot's gone on here. There is a tiny remnants of a castle, which has enough to warrant a Wikipedia page. Yeah. But there's a lot that's happened here, and I won't profess to know a lot of it. But the bringing that's sort of the glue that binds this. I think some of this stuff can feel a little bit disparate. We've got the Warhammer miniature paintings, like Warhammer and Dungeons and Dragons, which is cool from a creative perspective. It's amazing. But what's that got to do with the books? We're in the book hub at the moment, and what's that got to do with the theatre shows you're putting on? Well, of course, we'll find a way. You know what I mean? And it really says to me that there's obvious ways I could see that stuff being knitted in, and that we can bring all these threads together behind something that really roots it in the local community and the history.
There's another project we did that I've just remembered in the last year. We were approached by St Kesig's Church and asked if the drama group could put on something there for an evening of entertainment. I'm not sure that we just do evenings of entertainment, if by that you mean, a few people acting out some sketch. So what we did was we went to St Keswick's Church, had a good look round, and realised that its history is rooted again in a particular family, James Reed and his wife, historically involved in this town. I think the family lived at one stage at Auchterarder House. So we brought the whole story of that family and the church and a lot of other things that go on in this town that have a history attached to them. We brought them all to life that night in St Keswick's Church. Again, drama, some projection, and music. And I think that's what we always aim to do. And you touched on it yourself there when you said, I don't profess to know everything that's gone on historically. That's true of 90% of this town. You've got to remember that most of us, including myself, we're incomers. The number of people in this town that actually really understand its history or why it's come to be or what it's truly about is very small. And I think it's our job, apart from entertaining and having fun and being creative people, is to raise awareness of the environment that people are living in.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And when we did the open studios and various other things we've done next door, when you get people coming in, there's this old couple came in, and I think it was the wife was getting really excited because she used to go to the cinema there. Yeah. And she was like, I can't believe you've got this here, and there's art in here, and she wanted to ask all these questions, and I was like, why are you asking me? You were here. You know what I mean? And she was just so excited. And it sort of felt like, I want to thank you for letting me use your space, right? I just, all we did was turn up and put some paintings I did already up here, but look where I get to show it, and how amazing is that? And that people will come in and talk to you about it. And I used to come here as a kid and see films, and we used to do this, and we used to play tricks on each other and so on, and all these memories. There is a lot of pensioners around here. And many have been here their whole lives, and they've got all those stories to tell, and it's got quite a rich history and a vibrant, culture around it. And I think with all the new builds that have come into town, obviously Auchterarder's getting bigger, that benefits the local economy, but these locals must be worrying that it's just going to dilute what this town is, and I think that the fact that us as newbies can come in, and especially you guys, really sort of start to root the things you're doing in the local history, I think that's really important. I think it's important that Auchterarder doesn't lose its identity.
I look at things like St Margaret's Health Centre. How many people in this town even know why it's called St Margaret's?
I haven't a clue. There
you go. You see, it's all connected to King Malcolm and the castle, and even goes across to Queensferry and near Edinburgh. It's all rooted in the history of the figures that were important in this town. So
amazing, and they do amazing things for lots of people as well. So I think it's a real credit to the community. I'm in Auchterarder accidentally, right? Might sound odd.
So did I. Completely accidentally.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we just this became the only option when we needed to move up here after the first lockdown, and this was the only place we could find a house. But well, this will have to do. I hope it's not a complete hole, right? Yeah. Didn't look like one, but you never know, right? The moment the sun goes down, it's like everyone's beating each other up or something. I don't know. It looks all right at the moment, and I can't believe my luck. You know what I mean? How amazing to have landed here.
I'm exactly the same as you. I never intended to come here. I've always had a desire to retire to Perthshire, but I didn't necessarily plan to come specifically to Auchterarder. And yet sometimes when you come to a place, you wonder why did this happen? Because since I've arrived here, it has ticked every single box that I could want to tick, both in benefit and development for me, but also in what I feel I can bring to the town and to the people and what I can make happen. This is a very culturally interesting and responsive town. Other towns are not like that.
Yeah.
You could find yourself in a complete cultural desert. This place is exciting, vibrant, and the people that you talk to, like I talked to you, Alex, I talked to Lesley, I talked to Peter at the cinema. I never get this, I don't know if that would work, I'm never sure if that would happen. Everybody's kind of, right, let's explore it, let's make it happen, let's see what we can do. That's dynamic, I love that.
And that's it, you ask forgiveness, not permission. And I've displayed a couple of artists over the last few years that have raised a few eyebrows. And you sort of stick out, why not? Whatever, go for it. If you don't like it, don't look at it and move on. Yeah. But, everyone gets a chance. And if someone wants to be a bit more, challenging, bring it on, right? And that's it. You said, does this belong on a wall in a town like this? I don't care, right? Someone's come along, they've got the generosity to bring something and to stand there with it and talk about it. They deserve that platform.
And everything we do is temporary as well. So it's memory rich. It embeds memories in people. It brings memories alive from people. But at the end of the day, it moves on. So there's something you didn't like you're talking about, then you just move on. The exhibition will be down in a month's time and gone, and you can forget it if you want. Or you can take from it what you thought was important or what has triggered something inside you.
And it feels very much as if we're right at the beginning of something that is just going exponentially, wonderfully well. It really does feel that there's an energy behind everything just now, and it's
so the opposite.
To explode.
It's so the opposite of the way the world feels. It's going to explode with positivity. Everywhere else feels like it's just going to explode, like LA at the moment or whatever. Yeah. And I think that's amazing. It does have that sort of feel, and there's a certain energy about it. And I sort of listened to you about the your writing class, and it's like I'm sort of thinking back to the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, but I probably should be referring to some sort of poetry collective that I don't know about, but like where you've got these little groups where all these amazing creators have come out of, or like Manchester in the late 80s, early 90s, and places like that where really are we going to produce the next Oasis? I don't know, but
I think we're the nearly dead poets society.
Yeah, why not? Why not? And we'll just be making ghost stories after that as well. So I'm going to bring this to a close. Do you guys have any sort of closing words or anything? Anything else you want to say? I've said a lot.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's been interesting to chat with you and exchange ideas and thoughts.
Yeah, we don't often get the chance just to sit down and have a chat about what have we done, why are we here, and what do we hope to do. So it's actually really interesting just to sit around the table here and ponder about how we've ended up here. So yeah, very enlightening. Thank you.
And if people who are local or if anyone wants to find you, join in, what do you say?
Please do. We actually really encourage that, and we've got a drama group Facebook page, the Auchterarder drama group. We've also got the Auchterarder Stands Alone poetry page, which covers all the open mic nights. And these pages we use not just for promoting our own stuff, but we also use them as hubs, if you like, for where people can find out about what's going on in the poetry community across Scotland or other drama groups we're quite happy to connect with as well.
And someone is local, they want to join the drama group, but they're feeling a little bit shy.
Come along and talk to us.
Yeah, and you are
We're in the main picture house upstairs every Tuesday evening.
So people can just rock up.
You can rock up, have a chat with us, sit in on it, sit in for a whole evening at no obligation, and just see what we do and listen to us and meet some new people. We've had people turn up at the Stands Alone night, just as you say, who thought, I'm just going to come along and see what this is like. This is not my thing. And now they're coming every week.
And Stands Alone is not ticketed. It's all free.
Everything's free. Nothing's ticketed.
And if people follow you on Facebook, most of this should come through there.
Absolutely.
Right? So start with the Facebook pages. Yeah. If you want to join in, just turn up. Right? Yeah. Same goes for basically anything else that crew puts on. It's been wonderful talking to you. There's been amazing stories. I think we probably could have gone on for quite a while longer. but it's Saturday afternoon. I feel the pub might beckon. So I will bring this to an end. But good luck with your massive array of things coming. And I look forward to seeing what you produce. It's very exciting.
Thank you, Alex.
Art Against Mental Illness.